All right, guys. Um, Here live again. Really just trying to like pass up some time before I go to work. Um, so I figured let me just hop on and talk about something, talk about whatever. And as I was contemplating, what am I going to talk about and share for these couple of minutes? Because I'm not really going to be here long. But on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, I did share something today. And in case anybody was wondering, why would he go ahead and post um, the introductory paragraph, I guess, to the Constitution of the United States? Well, if you must know, I just feel with the climate of the politics of what's happening, I feel there's a good foundation there. I feel that if you are lost in the politics of what's happening and you need some sort of perspective on how to understand what we're seeing in the politics, separate from the obvious, and that's that it just seems to me that there's always a lot of lying within the politics, or not as like, yeah, just a lot of lying or some sort of corruption, I guess you could say, and not on a full scale, but of like, oh, who can you trust? But clearly there's always somebody trying to, I guess, benefit and gain something. But apart from that nonsense, um, I think that's just human nature. But again, I feel that you or us as citizens of the United States, right? Or even if you're not even a citizen in the United States, maybe you're from somewhere else and you're confused about, man, what's happening in the United States of America. It just seems like there's a lot of crap going on, and yes, there is a lot of crap going on. If you've kind of watched my recent lives called the Chop Shop with my homie, that we have our theories of what we believe is happening, and kind of like what we believe kind of have been signaling what's going down. But anyways, to divert back, you know here's the truth. One, politics wasn't even like something that intrigued me when I was younger, to be honest. uh for me, it was like, yeah, it's a waste of time, you know um I'm just gonna do me. I'm living my life. But the older I get, the more I realize, like, holy moly, when you thought things were going to be, you know, I guess you could say, smooth sailing, that we could never truly lose our compass, you know, as far as how our government is structured, and you just thought, well, one term, if a Democrat's in office, they'll pull, they'll push for these things, and and if a Republican is in office, they'll push for these things, and nothing too crazy. It always seemed like there was clarity as far as like what was really being pushed to a certain degree, right? Um, but I feel like the more we're actually, you know, especially, I don't know, I really strongly believe in this presidency more than ever. Like, I'm just seeing some wild things that are just really contrary to how our how the government system's set up. Now that I'm actually doing the research and just studying these things and looking into these things. But anyways, let me just kind of share this with you guys. The post I posted on Twitter was, like I said, it's the introduction to the Constitution of the United States. And my goal there is to low key hope, if there's anyone that's like me that didn't bother paying attention in school, so you don't know really squat about the U.S. Constitution and how that is applied to our government and how we're governed. Um, uh, let me just start and let me just read this part. But the idea is that following that, I want to kind of go into the articles and the sections and of each article to share really what principles were set to I guess you could say jumpstart this nation we live in called the United States of America. But anyways, here it goes. It goes, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Now, what was interesting to me is that as I was reading this part and I was typing it in, I realized like there's a lot of words in between that, in between that just that portion of that intro of that paragraph, that for whatever reason they felt the necessity to um to capitalize, kind of to like, in a sense, boldly put what is important, for you to understand, right? So the one was order, which makes sense. Order, union, justice, tranquility, welfare, blessings, liberty, posterity. you know, um, so it kind of gives you an idea of what it is they felt was important. The founding fathers of what was important to them when drafting or writing this piece of legislation. Um, and what they thought was important when establishing this foundation uh, for our government, um, which is really important because when building a house, the foundation is the most important part. But the best thing about a foundation is that once it's laid, right? I mean, every now and then I think you do have to do some maintenance. But for the most part, if you build a strong foundation, it could stand the test of time. And uh, to the point where you can remodel your house all you want and keep building on top of that foundation, as long as it's set as long as it's a strong set foundation, you can remodel the house however you want. Which brings me to my next point, and that's that you know Abraham Lincoln also had this quote that is super key, and that's that he said, "Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution that must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties. And not to Democrats alone do I make this appeal, but to all who love these great and true principles." It couldn't be more clear to me that it's like that is the foundation. The Constitution is the foundation of what we now hope to achieve, or what we've been striving to achieve, right? Uh, and I believe this is where what I truly believe is I feel the people, we've gotten too lazy to understand our own foundation within our own country, and it's like it's up to the politicians to uphold this. Um, it's up to them to to see if it's worth continuing or not, and hold on to these principles and these liberties and the value of these liberties and principles, when really and truly it was always for us. That's why it says we the people, because the Constitution is not for government it's really to keep them in check, but it's to empower us to give us order, to give us justice, tranquility, um, general welfare, blessings, liberty, posterity. These are the things um, that are in the Constitution that are written for us. And even when you look at like the most key, um, whether it's presidents within the history of the United States, whether it's uh, uh, um, I guess you could say activists, right, throughout the you know true activists, because I feel there's some radical ones that are questionable, but that understood this legislation and understood how it benefits them, to keep it and to use that as their weapon to empower them, because in the end of the day, this piece of legislation, this Constitution, it's written for us. It was written for us, for the people. you know and I want to stress that it says we the people. It's not singulating or isolating anyone. The people is the people. It's a broad statement. you know and we can sit here and argue about how long it actually took for that to apply to the people as an entirety, but that's a whole different conversation, and there's some merit there for sure. um but to completely dismiss the Constitution, and think that because it was written by some, I don't know, what the narrative now. It was written by some white men who were all racist, whatever, all slavers, whatever, all the, which partially true, but not fully true. But again, that's like another history lesson. Um, but the whole point is if when you understand that the intention of this was for the people as a whole, whoever that may be, no matter what race, ethnicity, culture, um, this piece of legislation was written for you, and it truly, really and truly holds a fine balance of these things of truly empowering us, the people, the citizens of the United States. Um, and if we take the time to actually look at this and read it and learn what our rights are, through the Constitution, through the Declaration of Independence as well, the Bill of Rights and all these things. It is our job, really and truly, as citizens of the United States, to learn these things, rather than just hear these politicians bicker about it back and forth. It is our jobs or it's our responsibility to do so that we're not getting, lack for a better term, cuckold by these, people and their agendas, and they're somewhat always, struggle for power, right? But when you actually read this, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all this stuff, it's truly a genius. It's a really geniusly written to never truly ever give the government full power. It's filled with checks and balances that truly keep that truly allow it to be kept at a stalemate, so that no party or person in power can ever truly have full power and authority over you, the people. You know, so but in order for you to know that, you have to really know what is written in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all these things that the forefathers wrote, uh, that started this nation, for you to understand. Even when you look at George Washington and his notion of like realizing, like, you know his presidency should definitely be temporary, and teaching, making the way to like that position of power has to move on, right? Even within the bureaucracies of Congress and whatever, uh, things have to keep moving on so that power is never held. Because power unchecked is a dangerous thing. You know, So, and I guess this just came to me because again, I'm looking at the climate of what's happening. I'm looking at, between, you know, just these mandates of vaccines and masks and things of that nature, and it's which I don't get me wrong, like I get it, but at the same time, to what extent are you what I just feel like people keep giving more and more of their civil liberties away, and I'm trying to remember this quote that pretty much stated, that's always the dangerous line, between being uh, dependent on government or independent of government, and you're always compromising liberty for either, quote unquote safety or quote unquote provision, you know, rather, when especially when you're dealing with dependency, trying to be dependent rather than being independent, you know, having liberty to forge your own path, to 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 make your own gain, you know. Um, and me personally, I stand on the side of independence. I believe, uh, I believe the first what the founding fathers wrote here within the Constitution, within the Declaration of Independence. I truly believe that they had the right idea, and when you understand what the idea was, I think it helps to further uh, help you in how you want to go about your politics, how you go, how you measure these, presidents, these, um, the people in the Senates, in the Congress, and the, supreme judges and things of that nature. Um, what's truly fair for all the people as well. How in the same manner that it keeps the people in power, right, or in government power, in governing power, right, the power to govern, uh, not to have authority over it, but to govern, to help, to the power to govern. Um, in the same way that there's checks and balances to keep them I guess you could say, even playing field, where one party should never have more than the other or whatever, things of that nature. But um, you know, I feel it's the same way even for the people. Like, we have to understand that there has to be some sort of middle ground, right? Where uh, where it's truly fair, And I feel like right now there's such a divide of wanting more than the other, or yeah, actually that's and I feel like specifically there's a party that wants more than the other, rather than what's the best interest of everyone as a whole, as a collective that works for everyone, you know. And we have to find a way to get there. If not, these troubled waters we're in at this very moment will only get worse, you know. And I feel people have to, one, learn your history, learn your politics, understand the legislations within our politics. I feel like a lot of people choose parties according to agendas and according to self benefit, uh, rather than broader picture. If I'm looking at things from a selfless perspective, while still knowing what's in my best interest, um, where's the balance? You know, um, where is the true balance there? And but you have to know. And as I made this point before too, like, for you to even understand even more so why the Constitution is written in the way it's written, and why every legislation from before is the way it is, to even get a better understanding, really and truly, um, where was the hearts and the minds of these founding fathers, that wrote this. Um, look towards the Holy Scriptures, the Holy Bible. The fundamentals or the foundations were set due to uh, a Judeo-Christian foundation. When you can even understand that perspective of what I believe they were trying to implement, learning from the mistakes of Israel that you see in the Torah, and I think personally even understanding uh, what was written in the Gospels and the epistles, they found a way to take these very notions of ideals, of what they truly believe God has granted us, uh, and how can we implement this in our government, uh, to help us govern our government, not to fully have power uh, over the people, because that was the whole point in the first place, to separate ourselves from the monarchy of England, was to, bring true independence to the people, true civil liberty, gifted and granted to us by God. You know, this was the notion. So if they were going to get there, they had to understand the ideals, the fundamentals and the foundations of the Judeo and more so Christian faith, I would say. Um, and hence why we got what we got. When we're looking at the Constitution, when we're looking at the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and things of that nature. I'm not saying it's all that, because in the end of the day, there's also the portions where you have to understand that's just government, that's just politics. That's how there are things that are kind of necessary when it comes to governing, in a sense. But when you really look at it, it's a great portion of it. It is inspired and pulled from the Judeo-Christian foundations of their ideals and what have you. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to share today. Is if anyone was curious, like, man, this guy just gonna post something about the uh, yeah, the U.S. Constitution. That's what it was, man. I'm just like, yo, I feel like maybe there's a lot of people like me, who truly, when they were in high school, or not even high school, but even maybe middle school, grade school, wherever it was, that when it came to the moment of the history of learning the U.S. Constitution, it's you kind of undermined it. It's just a lot of stuff to intake even at that time as a child, I think. But now that I'm grown, or as I got older, I realized, like, yeah, there's more at stake here, and I really have to know my stuff, right? So, I definitely started, I guess you could say, indulging myself with this information of like I said, the legislations and things of that nature, and um, you already know, building my faith and growing my relationship with God. But these are the things that I felt I had to understand as I got older, to find which path is best for me and best for my fellow citizens, right? Like my fellow neighbors, right? What is in our best interest, really and truly? That would be a fair and balanced government for all of us, right? And I think that's what we have to try and see, rather than it seems like there's just this dog eat dog war that's created, dividing people, dividing races, dividing religions, and or different faiths, and it gets really ugly, and it seems like there's no way to get along. And the crazy part is, I used to think that too. Like, I used to think, like, man, that maybe this, and maybe it is the truth. Maybe the idea of America was truly unrealistic, And I did think that for a moment. There was this thought I had at one moment where it was like, if you ever lived, I'm Puerto Rican, so there was a moment in time where, my family, we they had bought this house. When I say my family, I mean like my family, like not just my parents, but like my parents, my uncle, my sis, whatever. Like they pitched in to get this house, and we were all living in this house, right? All these different families, like me, my brothers and sisters, my sisters, and their husband, my uncle, whatever. Like we were all living in this house all together. You know, and the one thing that I found to be true is that there was always problems, right? And that's because it seems like everyone has their own habits, everyone has their own way of living, feeling everyone has feelings of having claims to certain things if they bought it. And, some people don't really like to share what they buy, whatever, what belongs to them, there's always that. And, so sometimes, or actually a lot of times there was always some sort of like conflict or friction happening within this house, because, or the hours you sleep, oh, you're making too much noise, blah, 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 whatever, my whole point is in that concept, I learned if you're gonna have a house, have it be for you and your family alone. You if you're a man, you and your wife, your kids, whatever. They have your house be for you and yours. I mean, sure. And in the case of an emergency, and maybe somebody has to kick it in your couch, whatever. With your brother, your whatever, maybe. But apart from that, there'll always be conflict there. And maybe that is the problem with the United States. This idea that all these different ideologies and cultures and ethnicities can coexist. Maybe might be vanity. I don't know. But I believe that if we are to try and succeed in that, there has to be a true balance of what is fair and a common ground where everyone can meet in the middle rather than be selfish and want for themselves. What works for everyone? Can we get there? But obviously, to get there, we have to have discussions. We have to really talk about these things, and but also the only way we can understand these things is by again studying the material of our legislations, the Constitution, policies that are being pushed, taken away, put through, Declaration of Independence, all that, and like I said, if you truly want more, just more vast understanding of, why the Constitution and the Declaration, why they are what they are, why the foundations of the United States of America are what they are. Again, you can just read the Bible and you can get a broad understanding of what I believe they saw and what they were trying to achieve. I mean, and it's in the history. Like I'm not just making that up. It is historically known that one of the things that they were pushing for, separating from monarchy, is they were trying to separate themselves from that idea of government. And realize that was the issue. So, anyways, with that being said, do your due diligence, and this is why, and I'm just going to show you guys this and say, like, if you don't have one of these, get yourself one of these, learn it, read it and learn it. But if you can't, just follow me on Twitter, because like I said, I plan on just day by day kind of just sharing each article, each section. I'm going to do that with the Constitution. I'm going to do that with the Declaration of Independence, because it is very important stuff to know. All right. So, guys, that's all the time I have for today. God bless. Love you guys. And peace out, man.